Well guys, it's here in a blink of an eye. We are winding down the final countdown weeks of summer 2025. Before you know it, it'll be fall and it'll be a chilly, brisk 95 instead of 105 every single day. So looking forward to getting out the flannel and sipping on a hot beverage. But in the meantime, I wanted to share with you guys one of my favorite topics, right? Sunscreen. So important, most important skincare product that you could use on a daily basis to keep your skin healthy, to ward off premature skin aging, for helping to prevent certain types of skin cancer, for fading hyperpigmentation. I mean, the benefits, not to mention sunscreens. I say this all the time. They are moisturizers. Moisturizers help reduce water loss in the skin, ultimately improving water content in your skin, helps to improve the natural turnover processes, which slow down with age, and as a result, lend to the buildup of dryness, flakiness, dull, rough skin tone. Well, moisturizing consistently can really help that out. So you're kind of double dipping in that you're getting protection and you're getting moisturization just by wearing sunscreen every single day. But a big hurdle when it comes to sunscreen is finding one that you like enough to use on a daily basis. For me, days I'm mostly going to be indoors, I focus more on SPF 30-ish. But if I'm going to be outdoors, if I'm going to be commuting in traffic, definitely want a water resistant one. I live in a very humid climate, so I find the water resistance factor just helps it stay put a little bit better. And I also find that it reduces the likelihood that it will sweat off into my eyes, which for some chemical sunscreens can be quite literally blinding. You'll have to pull over to the side of the road. I like to use chemical sunscreens. I like using chemical sunscreens for a few reasons. First of all, they don't leave a white cast. I also really like chemical sunscreens because for the most part, they tend to be a lot less heavy, greasy, chalky, pasty. They're a lot more breathable, lightweight, comfortable to wear. They allow for good evaporation of sweat, reducing the likelihood that I overheat, which is key when you live in a swamp, as I call it. I thought this would be helpful because this is honestly what I've been using. Starting out is from Neutrogena. Now, I partnered with Neutrogena a while ago over on my Instagram and TikTok on a sponsored post for this SPF 30 facial moisturizer, the Collagen Bank line. I really love it. It, like all of these, is fragrance free. But what's unique about this Collagen Bank line, this micropeptide that they have been developing for the past 8 years as part of a dermatologist-led research and development program looking at this peptide for eczema and for skin aging. When it comes to peptides and skincare, there are so many peptides out there, it's hard to know if any of them do anything above and beyond moisturizing the skin. When it comes to this peptide though, it has been shown to penetrate the skin really easily, which is a win because that's a big obstacle when it comes to including peptides in skincare. Do they actually get in? Now, the other thing with this particular peptide is the clinical studies on human volunteers are really interesting. I was most taken aback by the clinical study looking at adult women with visible signs of skin aging, the remarkable improvement in not only overall skin tone and the appearance of wrinkles, but in jawline definition, which is not something that you would really expect from a peptide. Now, to what extent it's actually getting in there and evoking some sort of true biologic endpoint above and beyond helping to retain water in the skin, which plumps and smooths wrinkles for sure, is really hard to say because we don't have that kind of mechanistic proof. Now, this peptide has been studied like in cells in a dish and shown to improve collagen production. It's even been put on human skin equivalents in the lab, and they did examination of the deeper layers, the dermis, and showed an improvement in collagen content down there, which will translate to diminishment in wrinkles. Hence the naming collagen banking, because it's a micropeptide that supposedly is going to help your skin to produce healthy collagen. Not to mention it is an SPF 30 sunscreen, so the sunscreen is going to protect your collagen. So the idea of collagen banking is that we lose collagen with age. Women will appreciate this to a greater extent around the time of menopause, and that lends itself to wrinkles. We also have a decline in the moisture retaining abilities of our skin, making it more vulnerable to dryness. There's little dehydration lines. So a lot of the collagen bank marketing around this particular sunscreen and this whole line, it centers around the use of this micropeptide. I think a lot of people get confused though because the product also has hydrolyzed collagen in it, and people are like, well, wait, putting hydrolyzed collagen on your skin, that's not going to get in to replace lost collagen. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What that does instead is it helps to retain moisture in the outermost layers of the skin, and it also helps with the overall texture and consistency. But the real collagen bank ingredient is the micropeptide. This product also is really lightweight. Initially, when this product launched, I was nervous because sometimes when it comes to chemical sunscreens around the eyes, they often end up burning and stinging. And I was so elated that that was not the case with this product for me. And I have continued to use it. I've never had it run into my eyes and cause the blurry vision thing. So it's been great in that regard. Of course, no white cast. It is a bit of a richer texture, but it ultimately feels very lightweight on the skin. Highly recommend applying this to your neck as well. Don't forget your neck. As a side note, check out my video on wrinkles on the neck. Of course, sun protection is a big part of preventing and improving the appearance of wrinkles on the neck. But you obviously want to protect that area from sun damage because it can compromise the health of delicate neck skin long term. Also, speaking of delicate skin, easy to tolerate around the eyelid area for warding off the damage that leads to more wrinkles around the eyes, discoloration of the skin around the eyes. So I have been able to tolerate it around the eyes, no problem whatsoever. I like the nice pump packaging as well. It makes for a decent base for makeup as well, like you don't get any pilling, and it's moisturizing, but it's pretty breathable. It doesn't feel greasy or heavy on the skin. Now, this product is not water resistant. Fine. Like I said, most days if I'm going to be indoors, then I'm not going to worry about a water resistant sunscreen. I'm not going to be working up a sweat, working at the computer indoors. Like I said, on days where I am commuting a lot, going about in traffic, just being out and about in general. I mean, shoot, even like 5 minutes outside here in the heat, you will be dripping sweat. I really, really, really like to reach for a water resistant sunscreen. So Anua is a Korean brand, but they formulated sunscreens for the US market. So in other words, this particular product, which is called the Zero Cast Moisturizing Finish Sunscreen SPF 50, it has the same chemical filters that any American chemical sunscreen would have. It doesn't have things like Uvinol A+, Uvinol T150, Tinosorb S, Tinosorb M that we get in sunscreens outside of the US. So I was a little bit like, well, is this going to burn and sting like just often happens with American sunscreens? I have not had any issue in that regard. And I have to say, the finish on this is really nice. No white cast, of course, but it's not super shiny. It does feel a little richer, a little heavier in comparison to the Neutrogena one I just talked about, but it's not like oppressive or anything of that sort. And this one is water resistant up to 80 minutes. So this is a great option for humidity to ensure that it stays on the skin a little bit better. Now, of course, if you're going to be outside in the sun for longer than 2 hours, you do need to reapply regardless of it being water resistant. Then if you are physically in the water, like putting your head underwater, you need to reapply it at least every 80 minutes, if not a little bit more frequently, because it's not waterproof. There's no such thing. It will come off in the water. It'll just stay on in the water enough to protect you for a period of time, and then you need to reapply it. As opposed to a non-water resistant sunscreen, if you put this all over your face and then went underwater, swim in a lap, it'd be all off. It can burn while you're in the water, while you're under the water. So you want the sunscreen to be offering you the stated SPF. So this will retain the SPF 50 factor underwater with water submersion for at least 80 minutes. But I haven't been participating in any water-based activities. Since I moved out of my apartment, I don't have access to a pool, so that's the end of that. But this would be a great option. Now, if you're going to be swimming in the pool, then you're going to want to be doing water-resistant sunscreen all over, in which case this might not be the most economical choice, but maybe you like using this on the face and something else on the body. I tend to just use the body sunscreen on my face in those situations. But for days when I'm outdoors commuting, I'm not obviously participating in sport outside per se or doing any kind of water-based thing, then I'm mostly leaning into sun protective clothing for the rest of my body and really just focusing my sunscreen usage and reapplication as needed to the face and to the hands, the neck, the upper chest. But I really even try to keep the upper chest area protected with clothing as well. Now, this also has niacinamide, which is an antioxidant that may also help to cut down on some of the damage from oxidative stress that your skin would experience as a result of not just the UV, but like pollution, other environmental aggressors. And it is a great ingredient for those of you who deal with hyperpigmentation. So you have the sunscreen that will actively help with fading existing hyperpigmentation and will help in preventing worsening hyperpigmentation or new onset hyperpigmentation, plus you have the niacinamide. Now, speaking of hyperpigmentation, none of the sunscreens in today's video are tinted. So think about that, because the tint in tinted sunscreens offers protection against visible light, namely HEV that comes from the sun and is an independent driver of hyperpigmentation aside from the UV. This will protect you from UV. It will not protect you from that visible light. Check out my video on tinted versus non-tinted sunscreens. I explain in depth how they differ in terms of their relevance to fading hyperpigmentation specifically and protecting against HEV. So check that out, because I answer a lot of questions there. But this for me personally is just a great option for, like I said, the days where I'm going to be maybe going out more and being in the sun for longer than 30 seconds here, and you'll be generating a sweat. So I have really enjoyed this. It's moisturizing, it's not greasy, and it's kind of cute the way that it's got this little cap here. Allegedly is supposed to help you measure out how much to use. I don't use things like this because I just find I end up spending all this time playing around with a sunscreen. It's just more efficient to put it on my face, move on with life. But you do want to make sure you're applying enough, which enough is 2 milligrams per centimeter squared of surface area. That works out to 1/4 teaspoon to the entire face. But for the face, the neck, the ears, and exposed parts of your head, that ends up being 1/2 teaspoon. So if you want to get real precise and measure it out with the spoon, some people do the 2-finger length method, which is fine, but the 2-finger method can underestimate, especially if the sunscreen is more of a liquid, more fluid, then it often underestimates how much you need. This is a pretty thick cream coming out, so that might be just fine to use the 2-finger method, but just be aware there's a lot of variation in terms of how people do the 2-finger method, and sometimes it's just a little bit more vulnerable to undershooting. Like I said, especially if it is a liquid formula. Speaking of which, this is the last one I want to talk about. This is Bioma's SPF 50 Ultra Light Face Fluid. This one's not water resistant, but in contrast to the other two, this is a liquid. It's a fluid. It's very thin. It spreads on the skin a lot faster, a lot more efficiently, and it absorbs and dries a lot more quickly. I happen to think this is a great option as a makeup primer as well. I think this would be a good one to consider if you have very oily skin, because if it's lightweight fluid consistency, it tends to go over well with oilier skin types. Now, this particular formula, like the others, of course, is a chemical sunscreen, no fragrance. This one does not have niacinamide, nor does the Neutrogena one. I forgot to mention that. But it does have astaxanthin, which is an antioxidant, may help defend against environmental aggressors. A lot of people are excited about astaxanthin. There's a lot of hype around taking it orally. Some people think that doing so will tan their skin. Watch my video about those tanning drops that people are taking, because you really need to educate yourself about supplementation with astaxanthin for changing the color of your skin. I talk more at length about the issues around that there, but applying it to the skin is safe and maybe an effective way to ward off oxidative stress. This also has hyaluronic acid, which will help with moisturizing the skin, retaining moisture. Like I said, sunscreens, they are moisturizers, so it's kind of a 2-for-1. Also, this has ceramides, which are lipids in the skin that are part of your skin barrier, and applying them in a product can help ultimately with better barrier function. So I have really enjoyed this lightweight fluid formula from Bioma. I've tried a lot of Bioma products over the past year. Some of them I absolutely adore, like the phytomucin, and others have just been, okay, glad I tried it, it's fine, onward and upward. This one I have really liked and would definitely repurchase. I've been choosing it a lot over the past couple of weeks, so that's always a good sign that I am going to likely finish that one up, and it'll make an appearance in my sunscreen empties video. This one I'm actually almost finished with. And then the collagen bank, this is actually my second bottle of this, 2 ounces. All of these retail for around $20, which is quite a chunk of change, but I'm finding that that tends to be the going rate these days for most drugstore skincare products. And I've been really happy with these. And like for my face, neck, upper chest, ears, I think they're ones I'm really liking. And I wanted to chat with you guys about them because, like I said, finding a sunscreen that you get along well with, it's a journey. So hopefully sharing the ones that have worked out well for me and I am really liking helps you maybe decide. Maybe the way these look is not to your liking on my skin. You're like, no, it doesn't do it for me. Then hopefully this was helpful anyways to give you you a sense of what these look like. But let me know in the comments, what sunscreens are you loving as summer is getting wound up to end and we go into the crisp fall months, which once we get there, guess what? The sunscreen does not stop. The sunscreen use does not stop in the fall months. So long as there is sunlight, you should try and protect your skin from ultraviolet radiation, because you can nitpick the UV index, you can nitpick the latitude, the longitude, the platitude, this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, the studies do show that daily use of sunscreen has the greatest impact on reducing sun damage and reducing the risk of certain types of skin cancers and helping to fade and improve upon hyperpigmentation. So that's my motivation to keep going. Plus, like I said, it's a moisturizer. I kind of need to use a moisturizer anyway. I see no reason to think about, should I use sunscreen today or not? I just do it. I just do it. And these are three that I have been enjoying a lot lately. All right, y'all. I hope this video was helpful. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.